Leute, ihr seid absolut.
Hey again, everybody. This is BQ here with the King of the Mountain podcast. How do I even start? This has been the week of snafus, of technical difficulties. Directly after Impact the other night, we recorded our podcast as we normally do. When I sat down to edit the show, only the last 20 minutes of our podcast recorded. So I got these guys up this morning to redo the podcast. I sat down to edit, and it only recorded my voice. So here I am for the third time. I don't dare ask these guys to hop on again, so I am going to knock this out, this review, and I'm going to do it as quick as humanly possible. If you were listening to the show for the first time, because you might be checking out the Deonna Purrazzo interview and you're not necessarily a fan of Impact Wrestling, give me a second here to talk to you. I'm inviting you to stick around for the whole show. We do a great job of objectively reviewing Impact each week. We point out what's good, we point out what's not so good. We try not to be fanboys, but we do believe in this product. I do invite you to check me out, check us out. You just might like what you hear. Now, if you don't want to hear it, here's the spoiler. The last 30 minutes of this podcast is the Deonna Purrazzo interview. But I hope you do give us a chance, or if you do fast forward to the interview, come back, check us out. When we're full steam and it's all three of us, we got a really good show. But I'm still going to try to give you a good show today because I do got some cool things to talk about. I want to do a couple plugs real quick. As always, TNAmecca.com for all you TNA fans, and the TNA Fan Zone on Facebook. Those are the two places I'm recommending all you TNA fans look up, visit, be a part of. Two podcasts I want to recommend to you guys. The Booking the Territory podcast. Mike Mills over there and his crew do a really, really good job. They cover all wrestling, but they don't do reviews. They just kind of talk about what's going on with wrestling. They have very old minds. They talk about a lot of really old school stuff. So if you're into the old school wrestling, I think you're really going to enjoy what they talk about. And they also have really good interviews with guys like Donovan Dijak, Eric Young, Aiden O'Shea, Marche Rocket, one of the guys from the War Machine. I keep forgetting his name. I'm sorry, but really good podcast. Also, if you're looking for another good TNA podcast, there's the TNA Asylum Heelcast. They took a break for a few weeks, but now they're back full steam, back in action, and doing a really, really good job. So what I want to talk to you guys about really quick, Billy Corgan had part 2 interview with Vince Russo, and my notes are a little more organized this week, a lot more organized than they were last week. So I want to go over it real quick with you guys, and then we're going to get into Impact. The episode of Impact was phenomenal. I thought this was the best pro wrestling show of the year, period. It had something for everybody. If you could not enjoy last night's episode of Impact, then you just don't like professional wrestling, or you watch it for the wrong reasons, or you just have blind hate towards TNA, because this show was great. So, Billy Corgan and Vince Russo. I'm a member of the Russo brand, so, not everyone's can check out these interviews, but if it's TNA related, I like to report back to everyone. So, Billy talked about that he has the ability to see the light. He sees the end game. He has a creative vision, and he stressed that he's not going to book to the internet wrestling community. That's the minority, because the casual audience doesn't get on the internet and talk crap. It's the IWC. It's a minority. He's not going to book that way. They very easily could have pulled the plug on the final deletion because the feedback was pretty poor when they did a contract signing. It was about 50-50. A lot of people enjoyed it. A lot of people hated it. But they saw the end game. They knew where it was going to go. And that's something I think we really got to pay attention to as TNA fans, because some of the other shows we watch don't long-term book. So we're just conditioned to want answers immediately or to understand why they did something. It's like when Mike Bennett won the XDivision title. Everyone was so pissed off, but there was an end game. It was weeks down the line, but there is an end game. He stressed that he wants to take chances, and he said it's proof that they're doing the right thing, because you've got people on other shows chanting delete, another company actually copying the angle. If you want to say they weren't, then you're in denial. copying the angle, and it shows that they're doing something right. He used a analogy. He said small market teams, if you follow sports, small market teams don't just flip a switch. It takes time to build a championship contender. I'm a big basketball fan. And if you got a team like the Boston Celtics, the LA Lakers, even though the Lakers aren't currently very good, big market teams can build championship contenders a lot quicker than small market teams. When you're a small market team, you have to draft smart. You have to hire the right coach, get the right personnel in place, people who really want to be there, even though there may be some other opportunities, bigger and better out there. So it's step by step. So, you guys who want TNA to get out of the impact zone and to move around, well, you guys just got to understand it's a simple, not simple, but it's a process. And TNA doesn't have the funding to do 10 things at once. WWE could do that. They print money over there. TNA has to attack one thing at a time. So it's television, it's creative, it's getting more people watching the product, it's getting more people coming to the impact zone to watch it, it's getting more people to pay the VIP as opposed to the general admission. It's there's little goals that they have to reach, and everything's going to happen in time, but you got to compare them to a small market team. On top of his list, he talked about stabilizing the business and presenting consistency. He said he was surprised how much the dirt sheets know. So we talk about Meltzer and all that all the time, and the negative stuff that gets out there. And we know it's not all true, but some of it is true, or some of it's based off truth. He said he's surprised how much the dirt sheets know. Now, when WWE has guys that get in trouble, it's usually because of their own doing. It's not a whole lot of backstage politics. The backstage politics and everything over there is probably way greater than any other company, but they keep it under wraps. And TNA, for some reason, has not had the ability to do that. Every time something happens backstage, something negative, it hits the media the next day. So this is something he wants to work on. Keep tighter lips in the company. Vince asked him to give us a glimpse into your vision. And just so you guys understand how Billy really understands, I used the word understand twice in a row there, I'm sorry, how Billy really is hip to what's going on. He said the average viewer does not sit and watch wrestling for 2 hours. They're playing on their phone, they're texting, they're tweeting. They don't just sit and watch. So the goal is to pick up the pace and move with a sense of urgency. I talked about it a couple episodes ago where I said, it was the first one where Billy was in charge. I was like, this episode felt like it moved with a sense of purpose. Because there were some episodes earlier in this year that, even though they were good, there were some boring episodes. They just moved so slow. And there was the infamous episode, I think it was in March or April, that in the first hour and 15 minutes of the show, there was only one match, and it was a 3-minute knockout match. I don't quite remember who was in it, but it was a 3-minute knockout match. We're not going to get that now. I've stressed all the time moving with a sense of urgency, not wasting time. Shorter promo times, shorter backstage segments. Tell a better story in the ring. So I think you guys can agree with me that we've really been seeing that. He wants to give them... now, when I was talking about technology, when there's the memes with Matt Hardy and the delete and the obsolete and the hashtags, they want more of that. They want to take advantage of technology so that fans are promoting the product. Instead of just retweeting, they're doing other things that people are catching on to. He said more stuff needs to happen and it needs to matter more. Every detail needs to matter. Everything needs to be explained. If a heel bumps a referee, they need consequences or they're going to keep doing it. How often do we see things happen and we don't get a response the next week? We don't get an answer. They just kill it off. So he said we're going to use things that usually go into a dead alley and use them to tell a bigger story. So they don't, I think one of the good examples he gave, he said one thing that's always bothered him in tag team wrestling is when baby faces break up tags. He said, I understand they want to win the match, but baby faces don't cheat. So there's little things that he wants to work on that he feels are insulting the intelligence. He talked about the Grand Championship. At this point, this is not a spoiler. I'm not going to get into it, too much what was said. But the vision of the title, which he based out of championships in Japan, not MMA necessarily, is he wants the champions to represent something different than someone who would win the world champion. Like maybe who's the toughest or who's the best pound for pound wrestler. Basically what I'm saying is he wants to tell a complete different story with the status of that champion than someone who would just hold a belt normally. You know, maybe being the biggest and strongest guy plays to your advantage more in this format than it does in a regular wrestling match. Or maybe your speed plays more to your advantage. So it's going to be really interesting. He said he wanted to call the Decay versus Deletion the Final Deletion 2, but he was overruled because he wasn't in charge at the time. I think he thought it was funny to call it Final Deletion 2. I hate that the dirt sheets have been calling it that because, you know, a lot of people are down on, oh, here we go again. We're getting it again. They're beating a dead horse. How dare anyone says that they're milking it or beating a dead horse when you turn on another wrestling program and you get the same matches every single week, and then the pay-per-views are the same matches from the pay-per-view before. They're not milking anything. This has been the best storyline of professional wrestling, whether you like it or not, and there's not a close second place. Here's the one big point I want to bring out, which I think is going to be really interesting to you guys. He said the real changes that he is bringing will start October 2nd at Bound for Glory. Crazy, right? Because we've been seeing changes now. And he basically is saying you haven't seen shit yet. You're going to see my creative mind. You're going to see what I do at Bound for Glory. So that's exciting. I'm going to tell everybody, trust in Billy. In Billy we trust. Make it a hashtag. Hell, I don't care. Trust Billy. I can relate to Billy being a music artist because there's a creative side to someone who does music that the average person cannot understand. For instance, creating an album. You know that you can't just put songs in any order. You have to create a roller coaster ride, not with good and bad, but a fun roller coaster. Your roller coaster can't just go in circles or you're going to get bored. It can't just do loop-de-loops because you're going to get sick. You have to incorporate everything to make it a fun ride. So when I created my albums back in the day a year ago, you know, the first song was always an attention getter. It would get a little more laid back after that. By the fourth song, there was always a R&B style track about a girl. The fifth track was always my single, and then the pace would pick up into a darker feel, then lighten up again, and then finish with something really big. That's a creative concept that only music artists understand. It's not just by chance when an album flows really, really well. It's done by design. Kyle was listening to one of my albums the other day, and he keeps talking about the first and the last song. That's by design. You're supposed to talk about the first and last song. That's the order I made it. So just trust Billy. You're not always going to understand the creative process, but there is an end game. Like he said, he has a vision, you know, to see the light. We're not always going to agree. People don't always agree with our show. I think ever since we started this show, I've had people give me advice and ideas. And I don't want the infancy of this show to be confused with inexperience, because I've created results in everything that I've done. And this has really been no different. I took concepts from my music life and put it towards the podcasting, and it's created results. So even though some people don't agree with some certain things about the show, everything's done for a reason. I just don't put that out there. You'd be bamboozled if you knew the marketing techniques that I use on Twitter, and you know, it might just look like a regular person's Twitter account, but there's a creative mind going on up here. So let's just trust the process, just like I ask people to trust the process with me. Billy Corgan did point out he told Vince Russo that he does have plans for Aiden O'Shea, and Vince said that he got a quick glimpse of what those plans are, and it sounds like some good stuff. James Storm, for what it's worth, is booked for an indie match in Las Vegas the night of Bound for Glory. So for what it's worth, do with that information as you may. One night only happened the other day. This was a good show. It was a fun show. It was a little long. It dragged out a little bit for me. There was a couple really good matches. Marche Rocket versus Mandrews and DJZ versus Josh Gresham. All the matches were not bad though, but and in respect to all the wrestlers, because I'd be happy with any of those guys if TNA signed them. The crop of wrestlers that they brought in and had to choose from is nothing like the cruiserweights or lightweight wrestlers in other companies. TNA's not, there was a point in time where they were the standard for that style of wrestling. They're just not anymore. And during this one night only, they were showing some old Ultimate X matches, and man, I was watching it, and all I could say was, "We're never going back to that." They're just not. They're just not going back to that old style. So the X Division needs to create a new identity. They just have to figure out, how do we make this different? There's always going to be money in cruiserweight wrestling. There always is. But they've got to decide, how are we going to deliver this different? Because, man, the Cruiserweight Classic went on. NXT, ROH, Lucha Underground. They all provide alternatives for cruiserweight style wrestling. It's not special anymore. There's money in it, but it's not special. So TNA's got to find a new way to deliver the division. Not go back to what it was, because it's not going to happen. Find a new way to deliver it. I want to apologize real quick. On the last show, I had said that the EC3 and Galloway match was very standard, and a lot of people were really praising this match, so I went back and I watched it. I was like, oh my gosh, that was a much better match than I was giving credit for. You guys got to understand, when we do our podcast, we're taking notes at the same time, and sometimes things don't translate to us the first time around. Some of our better podcasts have happened when we watch a show a second time before podcasting. So I do want to make that apology, because I know a lot of people really enjoy that match. Let's get into Impact. Again, this was the best show of the year. I think it was the best wrestling show of the year. I really do. I don't think there's a close second to this. It opened with the Hardys doing a sing-along, a family sing-along to the Jeff Hardy song. This was absolutely hilarious. You had to find this. I don't understand how someone could not find this funny. Hilarious. They're on the piano. They were singing. Maxwell had a part. Vanguard 1 with his R2-D2 sound did the obsolete. Senior Benjamin sang. When Maxwell played the piano, it gave Matt Hardy a premonition, and they must go to the zone of impact. I laughed when he went outside and opened the door, and he's like, Senior Benjamin, Vanguard 1, and they're just both standing there, like at his beck and call. Too funny. Great opening. I watched that on Twitter several times before the night started. Then we got Mike and Maria hitting the ring. We haven't get really long Mike promos lately, which has been a complaint of mine for a little while. But we got highlights of him eliminating Moose and Eddie, and which was needed. And this was one of many great heel reactions that we got tonight. People who know me, and if you've heard the podcast, I don't like cool heels. I might like the wrestlers, I just don't like the concept and the idea of cool heels. I'm almost 37 years old. I'll be 37 next month. I like heat. I like the heels that have heat. I want to boo the heels, even if I like the heels. I remember going to WWF when I was a kid, and my favorite wrestler was Macho Man, and he was a heel. And even though he's my favorite wrestler, when I went to the arena, I still booed him. I still felt inclined to boo him because he was doing heel stuff, and I'm not into the cool heel thing. So they very easily could have made Mike and Maria cool heels with the history that Mike has had in ROH and New Japan, and having a wife, having Maria who could very easily be a popular character. Man, Bennett was getting some heat tonight, but he wasn't even the one who got the most heat. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. There was a lot of people in this crowd. The locals are starting to show appreciation for Impact. A couple guys I talked to on Twitter, especially the chef, shouts out, was saying that the crowds are getting a lot bigger in there, and that if you see the crowd thinning out on TV right now, it was due to weather. So one night only, didn't have the largest crowd in the world. He had said the weather was really, really bad that day. And I can attest, I live in Florida. I haven't been able to cut my back lawn in 2 months because it rains so damn much that every time it gets sunny, it rains the next day, and I always have wet grass. So I can understand that. We got a hurricane going on right now, as a matter of fact. So, um, but a lot of people in the crowd, and a lot of good heat. He called for Moose, but he got Lashley instead. And I kind of found this funny because Bennett said, "I don't think he went to dinner with you." Lashley's like, "You don't think he went to dinner with me?" I kind of got a chuckle out of two grown men talking about a dinner date. Lashley said, "Maybe I promised him a title shot. Maybe he just hates your guts." Then Moose's music hits. Ladies and gentlemen, Moose is over. He's been in the company, what, a couple months? This guy is over. I mean, there was some criticism about his debut. That place went crazy for him. The Moose arm was going on all over the place. I can't. A lot of people have been saying, why are they breaking these guys up so quickly? Why are they teasing dissension? It's because TNA is not shoving people down your throats one way or another. They are going to book off a natural crowd reaction, which is how it should be. They're not wasting time on it because there's not money in Moose as a heel at this point. People want to see him as a babyface because he's a babyface. This is actually a good thing, and it's a good sign. They're listening to the fans. We watch other shows all the time and complain they don't listen to the fans. They're just worried about their own agenda. They're listening to the fans, and they're rolling with the punches. Moose said he didn't meet Lashley anywhere, and tonight he's going to decide who walks out champion. I was laughing because everybody knows by now it's Moose. Moose. And there was a close-up of a couple dudes doing the Moose arm, but they were like, with white boy rhythm, like Moose, 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 Moose. Funny stuff. We get Broken Matt versus Crazy Steve after that. I have written here in my notes, WTF. They started off with a test of strength, which we haven't seen since the 80s. Matt bites Steve, Steve bites Matt. Josh Matthews said it was a taste of strength. We had Brother Nero take off his boot at one point and start hitting him with it. Put it on his hand and hitting him with it. The match was short, but it was entertaining. Matt eventually hit the twist of fate, walked out the victor. Steve is laughing on the microphone, says, "I came alone, but decay is everywhere, including the Hardy estate. Maxwell doesn't belong to you. He's Rosemary's baby." Boy, I rewound that like, wow. Really excited to see where they're going next with this. They're backstage and Matt says, "I fear that Loco Steve may not be bluffing. I must notify Rebecca via this video interface." Shows Vanguard 1 scanning. And then it shows Maxwell in his room. It scans up and we see Rosemary. That gave me chills. I was hooked for the rest of the episode at this point. I didn't care what else happened. After this, we got the XDivision Gauntlet match. Started with some quick vignettes. Really appreciated this. It's those little touches that make the wrestlers matter. We don't ever hear Mark Andrews talk. So it's really good to hear this stuff. We got Trevor Lee and DJZ starting it off. There was a very loud DJZ chant going. Look, folks, I hate when the dirt sheets say this, especially because I've been there. I know people there. It pisses me off. Those were not tourists in there. Those were professional wrestling fans. Did you hear that? Those were professional wrestling fans of Impact Wrestling. Now, there's a handful of tourists in there. I've been there. It's not that many tourists. And if they are in there, who the hell cares? There's plenty to do at Universal, so obviously they're in there because they want to. They weren't held against their will. Come watch this free wrestling show. Hate that shit. I got really mad the other day when a website said, "Oh, a year ago Bobby Roode was performing in front of 400 tourists. Now he's in front of 15,000 plus." Good for Bobby Roode. Seriously, awesome. He deserves to work there, to get an opportunity. That's why people get into wrestling. But they're not. The Impact Zone is not 400 tourists. Half those people are paying customers. I'm a paying customer every time I go. Pisses me off. Andrew Everett comes down after that. There was a really nice spot here. I blinked. If you blinked, you missed it because I blinked and missed it. And I had to rewind it. DJZ was was thrown down on his back rolls backwards and head scissors through the ropes and head scissors Andrew Everett. Andrew Everett also had a beautiful springboard moonsault. Mark Andrews was also phenomenal in this, who came down next. Then Braxton Sutter, who many don't really feel is a good fit in the X Division, and Rockstar Spud. DJZ had a really nice springboard to the outside doing the cannonball thing, which the cannonball thing has really played out. But you see a difference in how TNA does it as opposed to other companies. The guy who goes over the top rope always has tremendous body control, and the wrestlers are in a tighter group. So when they get hit, they really all fall. There's always, in other shows, there's always one or two guys that don't even catch it. They catch like a toe and then they fall down. So, props to TNA for making that believable. Did you guys see the shooting star press that Mark Andrews did to Trevor Lee and caught him with the knees in the stomach by accident? That had to hurt. The ending of this was really, really creative. The Helms Dynasty was fighting over the belt, and that the way the camera showed it, they did not show where DJZ was. Jumps off the top rope, grabs the belt. Phenomenal, creative ending. This was the best X Division match of the year, by far. And, in the opening, I was saying, hey, we're never going back to the old X Division style. This gave me a little bit of hope. But they do need to find an identity. And, hopefully it's now that we got a really legit X Division champion. We get EC3 talking backstage. EC3's lost some of his main event steam. He ever since Matt Hardy became popular, I just felt like doesn't feel as big of a deal on TV. And he's talking. Eli Drake comes. Instead of focusing on these yahoos, focus on Eli Drake. Does his shtick, and then when he's going to say that's a fact, EC3 cuts him off I think the fact is you're probably going to get your ass kicked. I liked that. What I didn't like was that the match itself, this was used to make EC3 look strong. Oftentimes before a big match, guys just win matches he's on a roll, he's been winning. Unfortunately, Eli Drake kind of looked like a jobber in this match. The reason I say that is because think about the last flurry of moves. It was the TK3, the EC3 splash, a flapjack, and then the 1%er. 4 high-impact moves in a row that Eli Drake didn't even try to counter. That's how they book enhancement talent, where, EC3 was kind of doing whatever he wanted. Now, on the good, positive note is it did make EC3 look strong because it was a strong victory, because it was a dominating victory in the way he ended. So I get the storytelling there. I just wish it was someone other than Eli Drake, because he's kind of getting that Dolph Ziggler role, just getting fed to people, and this guy is absolute money. Galloway's backstage. Says, you want to know what happened? This isn't the place. Let's go back to where it occurred. He hits the ring. The crowd is cheering, why, Drew, why? He says, I won the title and we celebrated together. I was in the house for that. I celebrated with him. He says EC3 got cheers over him. Aaron Rex came in and said very similar stuff to what he said. And then in the match itself, he said, you weren't cheering me, you were cheering the damn referee. So he blamed it on the fans. This was another instance where a guy started getting heat. Immediate heat after coming off a babyface run. Blamed it on the fans. Corrigan's music hits. Says his actions are reprehensible. I considered suspending you without pay. But that someone told him not to. Drew said, you're not a leader. You're Dixie Carter's little bitch. They really need to stop with the bitch word. It's effective, but not when it's the cheap heat bitch. I'm going to use an example later in the show of when it's effective. But when it's, you little bitch, you bitch, then wait for the pop, that gets kind of old after a while. There's some other words they can say that are edgy. They could say bastard. I'm waiting for the women to call each other sluts one day. And don't get more derogatory than that without, with still keeping it, without cursing at them, without having to say bitch. And then Aaron Rex comes out. It was me. And they come out. They have a really nice brawl. A bunch of Jay Brown securities guys come out, try to break it up. Marche Rocket was in there if you missed that. Does that technically count as his debut? But he was there with the Helms Dynasty. I think Braxton Sutter's in there. They're trying to break it up. It was a good little brawl. I think this is going to be a good feud. If you guys haven't seen his indie work when it comes to being a heel, Drew is doing some really good stuff. I think that's going to translate to TNA, to Impact. And, no one's... Aaron Rex is over as hell. We haven't seen him wrestle yet. They've got us waiting. I think he's, still maybe getting to some wrestling shape. Who knows? But I like that they kind of keep us waiting. It's going to make it really special when he does wrestle. Rebby answers the phone, says, sorry, I was doing laundry. Matt says, Rosemary and the Abyss are on their way to the Hardy compound. She said, we'll get to the safe room. Vanguard 1 scans. Matt says, Rosemary is in the house. So this is getting interesting. Very interesting. JB's backstage with Allie. Allie's with her balloons. And she says, do you like my balloons? I didn't know if it was an innuendo there or not. If you saw the way JB looked at the camera after answering that. She was very happy, ready for her celebration. Said Maria said to get balloons, streamers, confetti, the whole nine. We go back to the Hardy compound. Senior Benjamin opens the door. She thinks it's someone else, and it's just him checking on her. And she says, here, hold Maxwell. I'm going to get this bitch myself. That is effective use of the word bitch. When you throw bitch in the middle of a sentence, it is a lot more effective than at the end of the sentence. DJ Z's backstage with the belt, celebrating, said, I've had health problems, girl problems, stuff we can all relate to. And now it's his time, 4 years later, XDivision champion. Now we get the Allie celebration. This was a pivotal part of the evening. Maria got some heat. Freaking bitch. I was pissed. It actually suspended my disbelief. I was into this and I really felt bad for Allie. I think anyone watching felt bad for Allie. I don't understand how you couldn't. Sienna's music hits while she's in the middle of her celebration speech. I thought Sienna was going to kill her the way she was coming down. She starts screaming, how could you do this to me? Maria says it's all Gail Kim's fault. Gives Sienna the night off just like she gave the rest of the knockouts. Then tells Allie, I think you're a little confused about this celebration. This is when she just starts treating her like she's a piece of shit. Who would celebrate you? You're worthless. Maria was getting some serious heat at this point. You messed up everything. Allie is confused. Why are you saying these things? And she said, this celebration isn't for you. It's for your opponent. She said, well, Miss Maria, you gave all the knockouts a night off. Then that's when she tells Allie, lay down. Lay down. She's just screaming at her like she's a dog. Maria and Allie says, I don't want to. And that's when Maria reminds her, I gave you this job. Do you want to lose your job? That's one part we got to pay attention to, because if Maria's like her employer, how are we going to... This is just something where I hope they don't insult our intelligence. How are we going to move on into the Allie wrestler role? Is it going to be something where she gets fired, Billy Corgan hires her? Keep an eye out for something like that. If not, it's kind of a hole in the plot. So as Allie is laying down, Maria shoves her down, brings the ref in, gets the 1, 2, 3. As JB is trying to say, as announcing that Maria is the new Knockouts champion, she tells JB, shut up. Tells Allie, put the belt, get up, Allie. Just berating her. Put the belt around my waist and announce her. This was heartbreaking if you're an Allie fan. It was, she really made you buy it. They both made you buy this angle. This was amazing, phenomenal. Wrestling is causing emotion again. Not just that this is awesome. Not that emotion. Real, actual emotion. Then we get Bennett and Moose backstage. The Bennett and Moose angle and the Hardys angle both interweave through the entire night. It wasn't just segment. The two main angles lasted the entire show. That's tremendous booking. He tells Moose, don't believe what you read on social media. What if Tom Brady believed everything he read about deflating the footballs? Gives him a lead pipe, says, I know you'll do the right thing for us. Then they go to the Hardy compound. Rebby is going through the house. Pulls a sword of all weapons. A sword. finds Rosemary like an old cheesy horror flick. Rosemary runs to the pole and goes up the pole, flies up the pole. They had to have got a kick out of this when they were recording this. I think Rebby has done some. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe someone knows the answer. She had to have been an actress, or have a. I heard an interview with her with Russo, and I just don't remember the answer. She had to have done some acting. Rosemary does the doll angle again. Like, you can't tell it worked the first time. It wasn't the same this time because the doll is nowhere near the size of Maxwell at this point. Throws the doll over, catches it, and she's crying. This was so well done and believable. Senior Benjamin comes out and says, "Don't cry, I have Maxwell." With the line of the night, she says, "Senior Benjamin, prepare the battlefield for massacre." I believe Rebby and Rosemary are actually involved in this match. Rebby was a wrestler previous. If you guys don't remember, she did a knockdown against Velvet Sky. And she won. She's 1-0 in Impact Wrestling. So, I hope she's involved. That would be pretty cool. Then we get the main event, which is Bobby Lashley versus Mike Bennett. This is a random no DQ match. All of a sudden, it's a no DQ match. Okay. Lashley shows a lot of athleticism early on. Moose comes down. And this is the first time that Lashley has been... he was basically booked as a babyface in this match. So this is the first time we've seen Lashley, getting beat down for the most part. Mike Bennett was really believable. It was a good match. It was a nice heel versus heel match that, maybe you're booing for both guys. But the way they've told the story and, had us anticipating the whole night and involved Moose, phenomenal job. I laughed when Maria tried to throw Lashley in the ring. She's obviously not strong enough to do that. So Moose picked him up, threw him in. The deciding part of this match was that he held the lead pipe up for Mike Bennett. He didn't grab it. Not that he didn't grab it, but Moose pulled it away. Mike Bennett caught a hell of a spear, and the match was over. Mike Bennett really sold this spear after. There is times in wrestling where people take these high-impact moves, and then they kind of get right back up or start talking like normal. The Lashley spear is not like it's not like the Roman Reigns spear where the guy just kind of takes it, doing him a favor. Lashley runs through these dudes. Him and Moose have killer spears. So Mike Bennett's, I can't breathe. I mean, he's selling it. He said, "Moose, you big stupid animal, get your dumb ass into my ring." Starts talking down on him, getting that heat. Then you're a failed football player. You were nothing without me. Then he slaps Moose. Moose clotheslines the shit out of him, takes Bennett out. So again, if you're one of those people that are like, why are they doing this so soon? It's because they're listening to the crowd, the audience, the people. They're not booking to the IWC. They're listening to the genuine reaction that people want to cheer for Moose. And you can tell TNA is very structured in the fact that they want clear babies and clear heels. They don't want to do the cool thing. They don't want tweeners. Matt's kind of a tweener at this point, but that was a curveball too, is that we thought Jeff was going heel, but it's really Matt going babyface now. Again, that probably wasn't planned. These are good things. Storytelling is so important. I'm going to give you a couple examples. When was the last time, aside from his 2 XDivision wins, championship wins, that Eddie Edwards has won a match? This dude has got pinned in almost every single match they've had this year, except for the couple, this is post-Wolves, okay? The Wolves title match that they lost to Beer Money all the way to now, he's pretty much done the honors every single time he gets in the ring, but he still feels like a big deal because they're doing such a good job making him feel like a big deal. He might be losing, but none of us are thinking about his win-loss record. This is the same with Broken Matt. The Broken Matt character has been 50-50 booked. He had a losing record until he beat Crazy Steve. But we would never think it. We don't even think about what Broken Matt Hardy's win-loss record is because his creative has been off the charts. That's why this storytelling and creative is so important that we talk about every week. That's why it's so important. So that you don't have to 50-50 book. Or if you do 50-50 book, it doesn't feel like it. And I still say 50-50 because that refers more to two people wrestling together. Having several matches against each other. TNA doesn't do a lot of repeat matches. But it's just great storytelling. God. Next week is Delete or Decay. This is, the kind of final deletion style match. It looks like Rebby and Rosemary are involved. I thought there was a missed opportunity here. Maybe you guys agree with me on this. And maybe there's reasons they couldn't do this. But wouldn't it have been killer and unlike anything in pro wrestling if Rosemary actually kidnapped Maxwell? What if she actually took him to the Decay's little lair? Say this Decay or deletion match wasn't now. It was a couple weeks down the road. And it actually has, shots of Rosemary holding Maxwell and like maybe caressing his side of his face or touching his hair. Maybe they didn't want to scare the kid, or maybe the angle hits home too much, a kidnapping angle with kid. Maybe it's inappropriate. But man, that would have been some killer television if they really ran with the he's Rosemary's baby thing. That would have been nuts. Absolutely nuts. I'm really hoping, at the time I'm recording this, that we get some clips throughout the week about, kind of like they did with Final Deletion, where they hyped Final Deletion up in 1 week. When they announced the match, everyone was like, oh my God, a final match. 6 days later, they cannot wait to turn the TV on. So hopefully they go all out again this week. I think it's going to be amazing. I really do. So, guys, thanks for listening. This was about half hour shorter than we normally do because this is just me talking to you. The technical difficulties just got the best of us, and I apologize to Will and Kyle. I'm going to look into it, and hopefully we're going to be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and plug next week's guest here really quick because I'm already talking. We got Deonna Purrazzo coming up here shortly. I hope you guys enjoy the interview. We really enjoyed talking to her. And next week, our guest is former TNA Knockout ODB. So she's going to be coming by the show with Robbie E. And we're going to be talking to her. So we're really excited about that one. And we're really excited about this upcoming one with Deonna Purrazzo. So hope you guys enjoy, and please subscribe. And if you're listening to for the first time, check us out next week too when we're full steam. We got the guys and we have a really good conversation about Impact. So thanks again for listening, guys. Enjoy the interview with Deonna. All right, everyone, back again on the Robbie E Experience part of the show. And we actually got the entire crew in order online this time. So we got Will, Kyle, and Robbie. What is up, fellas?
Are you guys feeling what I'm feeling here? Like, I feel like it's been a few weeks since the four of us have been together, and now it's kind of like the band's getting back together.
Everything's falling into place.
Yeah, glad to be back.
I mean, minus Skilo, I feel like, the family's back together. This is like Thanksgiving dinner. Now, am I like reading too much into this?
Well, we're working on that. We're in contract, negotiations with Skilo. Thinking about getting like a live performance going. I wish the remix featuring.
This is what happens. This is what happens when you put BQ in charge of something. He doesn't deliver. He doesn't get the signature on the dotted line. Now, if I was in charge of this, dude, I would have had Skilo weeks ago. That's the day after I found out that you had any relation to him. Skilo would have been on our show.
I think BQ's lying. I think he's lying to us about this. I think there's no Skilo at all.
Well, what do you think?
Robbie said if I produce Skilo, then he will give us Vince Russo.
That's a fair deal.
Yes.
I think you better produce him. I mean, I know.
How's your weekend, guys?
I will work on it. You had your BBWF match. I watched it online. I don't want to give away the finish, but I did watch it. And you did go for the Texas
Broverleaf. You did it? You did the Texas Broverleaf?
Yeah, it's my move. It's the move that I created on the show last week. I made history by creating a move on this podcast, and I executed the Texas Broverleaf to perfection. Yes. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope we get to see that on Impact on Pop. the next coming weeks.
Well, you are going to see that. You're going to see it all over the world. Let's just hope no one steals it.
Okay.
I will die if I hear Josh Matthews with the Texas Pro Relief.
It's going to happen.
It'll be good to see that.
All right, so on the line right now, our next guest has accomplished a lot in the world of professional wrestling at the tender age of 22. And if you do not know who she is, then frankly, you do not watch professional wrestling. This term gets thrown out a lot on television, regardless of what you're watching, but this is truly one of the hottest free agents in pro wrestling. She is fluent in Purrazzo. It is Deonna Purrazzo. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
You're welcome.
Deonna, I hate to start it off like this and do this, but did you really just call her Deonna Purrazzo?
Did I say that?
Yes, you did.
Hold on, Deonna, hold on a second. Let me just give you a little background on these three hamsters. Whether they're saying my name wrong or saying something wrong about me, every week they mess. You ever see the movie Dodgeball? You know, the team that messed everything up, and they were kind of like the loser team. That's these three. You root for them and you want them to do good, and you feel bad, but they're always messing things up.
They're the average Joes.
Deonna Purrazzo, and they call you Deonna Purrazzo.
Hey,
God,
BQ said it.
I'm very sorry. I just sat here and cracked the joke that if you don't know who she is, that you're pretty much living under a rock, and then I just butchered the name. I'm sorry. It had a whole show opening. I just got tongue tied.
You should be hit with
okay.
one of her. You should be hit with one of her titles.
I know.
You know what? It's a common thing, so it's really not that big of a deal.
I know, but I just feel like a fool because I really do know what your name is. Oh my God, how embarrassing.
Don't worry, Deonna, I'm coaching these guys. And I don't even know if I necessarily mean this to Will and Kyle. Now they're kind of my guys, but BQ, I'm kind of taking him under my wing and coaching him and learning him not to mess up people's names. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted how that progresses over the next few weeks.
I didn't know why she was laughing
he doesn't
at
have any mess.
I didn't know why she was laughing at me. I was like,
I didn't know if it was something that I had just heard and I heard wrong or what, but like I said, it happens all the time. So.
Oh God, you are you're fresh off a Field of Honor, right? If I'm kind of tracking things on Twitter here.
Yes, that was this past Saturday.
So who did you work with?
Taylor Hendricks.
Okay, I'm not allowed to like Taylor Hendricks in my household.
I don't like her either.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
BQ, why aren't you allowed to like her? What's the...
There are certain females that it is okay for me to follow in pro wrestling to keep my relationship alive and healthy, and she's not one of them.
So wait, let me get this straight. Your wife lets you be a fan of Deonna Purrazzo, but she doesn't let you be a fan.
I don't know if that's an insult.
There's a certain way that Taylor carries herself on television.
So it's a compliment. Deonna is, she carries herself respectfully, is what you're saying.
So the classy, respectable are fine, and the NC-17 style not so much.
Exactly.
See, what you need to do is just don't say anything. Just take that excitement to a different room, yell, cheer, have whatever lubricant nearby, but don't say anything in front of her.
That just got kind of creepy. That was weird.
See, the thing is, BQ, your mind is just in the gutter, and you should be able to just watch for professional wrestling and not looking for anything else.
But I do. That is why I watch it.
Well, this is awkward now.
Tell us about the Field of Honor. How that.
It was actually really fun. We were the openers to the show, so we kind of got to kick things off, and it was the first time that I had wrestled in any kind of stadium, so that kind of setting was new to me, but it was really cool the way they had it set up, and the card was stacked. Michael Elgin was on the show, and a ton of the New Japan guys, so it was a really unique locker room to be able to be a part of.
This was at a minor league ballpark.
Yeah, I think it's MCU Park. It's right on Coney Island.
Yeah, it's at MCU Park, home of the Brooklyn Cyclones, right in Coney Island.
Why didn't you go to that?
I wasn't able to make it. I went last year. You got it right next to Nathan's Hot Dogs. Go get yourself, a world famous footlong while you're over there. It's a nice little part of Coney Island.
So obviously we've got Robbie here with us, and you're the second guest in a row that apparently has been trained with him or had an early influence in your career. So we would really like to hear about the early influences that Robbie had on your career. You're laughing. I hope they were good.
Hey, be nice, Deonna.
Absolutely. Rob is actually Damien's best friend, and I started my very first day with Damien, so Rob has been there since like the very, very beginning, first day, and he's helped me become accepting of myself as a character and kind of try to embrace the not so serious part of wrestling that I have. Like, I'm a totally serious person and Rob is not, as you know, so he tries to lighten me up, and that's really helped, especially right now where I get to be different characters in every place that I've been. So he's helped tremendously in so many different ways.
And the amazing thing is I didn't even pay her to say anything. Like, she just did that on her own. But did you see how she was pausing, like thinking of like, God, what nice thing could I say about this douchebag? But she pulled it out. That was pretty good. I kind of like feel a little like honestly, that like kind of like made my heart, people don't give me compliments and genuinely like me much. That like made me feel good. Thanks, Deonna.
Has Robbie ever stolen anything from you? I just want to ask you.
Not from me, no, but I've been an accomplice to him stealing quite a bit, so.
Oh.
Oh, wow. We asked our last guest if he had stolen anything from him, and he said he stole a pair of his trunks or his tights or something.
I don't think he'd fit in mine, so that might be a good thing.
Although, I don't know. Our legs are probably about the same size.
Is it true he's responsible for getting you on the knockouts and knockdown?
Yeah, he obviously, Pat Kenny is a part of TNA Creative too, so he helped Damien get Pat to the school that he was helping Damien run, and Pat did a seminar. And when the pay-per-view came about, they needed an extra person, and Rob really pushed for them to bring me in and use me for that.
So how did the recent knockouts, knockdown, how did that one happen? It's just you're basically already on the call list and they brought you aboard, or?
Essentially, yeah. Because Rob is in high standings there and he really pushed for me and I was able to deliver what they wanted, then, I kind of just was able to use his backing and build a good rapport with them. So when it came time to do it the second time, they knew that I was a good choice.
I was really disappointed because I was watching that on pay-per-view and my pay-per-view feed cut out for your match with Madison Rayne. Like, it was just getting ready to start and it cut out and it joined when the match was over. So I had to wait for it to be uploaded on YouTube.
That was probably one of the most fun. Matches that I've ever seen Deonna, and she got to play a whole different kind of character. Tell me about the character you played.
Yeah, they wanted me to be like super like I'm ready to be here and I'm gonna win at all costs, and I'm just happy for another opportunity. And then I got to turn on Madison halfway through the match and just go completely psycho. So that character is not anything that I've ever had to do before, and I always have a lot of fun at TNA because they force me to be something I'm not, and they force me to push my envelope a little bit more. So that was really fun.
So how did when you did the knockouts Gauntlet match at the top of the year, how did that come about? Because there was a couple of you in that match, you and Chelsea, which Chelsea wasn't a part of TNA at the time. So right. I guess for us, for the viewers at home, it was we didn't really know what to make of it because we saw a couple of girls pop in that weren't contracted. So was that a last minute thing that they added you to, or? Yeah,
I actually had no idea that I was going to be a part of that until the day that it happened, and I got a text message from one of the producers asking if I would be around, and I actually was in Florida having dinner right after NXT. I had done a battle royal there, and it was kind of just great timing because I was flying home and I could make it to the show. So it was like a last minute thing, yeah.
That's pretty remarkable. You've been in 2 number 1 contender battle royals for NXT and for TNA.
Yeah.
So it's pretty well documented that you're on the road a lot, working a lot of indie dates. What's an average day or week like for you? I would imagine you don't have much of a personal life.
Not much. During the week, I have a real job and I'm a preschool teacher, so I spend, the normal 9 to 6 there, and then I go to the gym and I do what I have to do, like run my errands that I could get done at night and back at it the next day. So the weekends are really just on the road and wrestling, and it starts all over again Monday morning. So I don't get to do much, but Damien and I try to find that balance where we can have fun while we're on the road.
Do the kids see your matches? Are you allowed to show your kids the matches in class?
Yeah, they know that I wrestle, and they ask sometimes to see it, so I'll show them some clips. But I don't know how the parents feel about that, so I try to keep it separate.
I hope that didn't come across offensive when I say you probably don't have a personal life, but what I meant was it's pretty obvious you're a very hardworking hardworking person wrestle a lot of dates, so I just...
No,
Yeah, well,
I
me
didn't
too.
take offense to that.
Cool thing about Deonna is unlike all girls or guys, it's not like people don't work hard anymore or things have changed. But even, when I started 16 years ago and I started with her boyfriend, Damian Adams, who also was her trainer, we were doing 3 shows. It wasn't about the money. It was just about getting the experience and traveling and becoming wrestlers. And we were doing shows, at least every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, training during the week, at the gym 5-6 days a week, tanning, haircut, working on new gear, watching videos, just really 24/7 wrestling. And Deonna's become that, because everyone thinks she's wrestled so much every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but they also don't realize that, she's training 2-3 days a week. She's in the gym 5-6 days a week. She has a full-time job, and then she's doing everything else cosmetically that comes with being a pro wrestler. So she is one of if not, like you say, she's hardworking. She is probably the hardest working, or at least one of them, women in all of pro wrestling right now. You really got to emphasize how hardworking that she is. And that's why she's getting all the opportunities that she is getting, because she's standing out, because she's all in.
I didn't pay him, by the way. Thank you. I said I didn't pay you, by the way. Thank you.
Hey, where'd you get that joke from?
That schedule, full-time job, that's something that I'm sure a lot of people didn't know. And I was thinking about what I had read about you last year. You had 97 dates, and your goal for this year is to do 100. And I'm sure people out there and your fans want to know just how close are you to that magic number of 100, and what made you pick 100 matches this year?
So I actually had the goal of 100 matches last year, but like you said, I fell short at 97, which is still incredible and a feat in itself. But I just picked what's a good number, let's try to push it a little bit. And it's come, like you said, not really having a personal life. I don't take weekends off. And my brother just had surgery a couple months ago, and that was the first weekend that I had off, and I canceled everything that I had to do, to be with my family, but I don't get to do that much. So that goal was just how much can I work and make it feasible. So that's why I picked 100. But just this coming weekend, I'll be at 67.
67. So you're on how many weekends are left? You should
sound like you're on pace.
Yeah, sound like you may actually have around 105 to 108 by the end of the year at this rate.
Yeah, right now my schedule is pretty packed, and I have locked in about 96 shows so far, but there's quite a few days that I don't have anything yet that I'm looking to be filled, soon. So if I get to pass 100, that's great, but I'm just trying to make that 100 mark.
Well, I tell you what, if you only have 99 and it's towards the end of December, BQ, Will, and Kyle are going to all put their money together and fly you to Florida, and they're going to run a show just so you could get a 100th show. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hold you to that.
Hell yeah. What's it like working with Mandy Leone? I think she's oozes superstar potential. What's it like working with her?
So we met doing the Rosebud thing at WWE with Adam Rose, I guess almost 2 years ago now, and instantly we just became friends, and we got each other's contact, and we just stayed in touch, and we never really worked together until the first Women of Honor match that happened last July. So, we trained a little bit together just to get comfortable and get to know each other. But that was really one of the first real matches we had against each other in front of a crowd meaning that much. So since then, we've become really close friends. And this weekend, she actually did the run-in and saved me from Taylor. So it's really fun to be able to work with someone that you really get along with and that you enjoy being around, and she's one of those people.
I do want to give you props on the. I ordered the Women of Honor pay-per-view,
Mm-hmm.
the iPay-per-view, and that six-woman match you guys had was a lot of fun. The whole card was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, that you guys did an awesome job with that.
Thank you.
I bet your wife loved that you're draining the bank account on that one. Women of Honor, Knockouts, Knockdown. Do you order any guy pay-per-views, or do you only watch women's wrestling? Good God.
Yes, I ordered guy pay-per-views.
Deonna, I am a fan of yours, by the way. All of us are, and I remember, I remember reading something about you meeting Rip Rogers, and the funny thing about that is, and without telling my age, I remember him on TV watching him perform.
Okay.
How is his training? Well, I know you weren't directly trained by him, but how has your association with him impacted your career?
So when I was younger, all I've ever wanted to do was be a wrestler, and I had this vision in my head that when it was time to go to college, I wanted to go to the University of Kentucky, and I wanted to be on their co-ed cheerleading team, and I was going to train at OVW with Rip Rogers. And obviously that did not happen, and I don't know if that would even be humanly possible, but the first time I got to meet Rip, he actually flew up. He lives in Indiana, so he flew up to LaGuardia, and Damien and I picked him up. And the first time I met him, I was so nervous, and he was just like typical Rip, like vulgar and disgusting. And it was a dream come true, but like a really sick, twisted dream, I guess. And since then, he's just been at my side. Whenever I need him, I could text him or I could call him and ask him questions about the matches that I have coming up, or if I'm not sure if something makes sense or what to do in certain situations. He has invested so much time in making me become the best wrestler that I can be. And I'm so grateful for that, because all I've ever wanted to do is be under his tutelage, and now indirectly, of course, but I really get to learn everything that he has to offer.
I was Indiana. I'm in Chicago, so I didn't realize he was actually that close. I pictured him being further away, but that has to be cool. I would love to actually meet people that I will watch on TV in person one day. So that's always a good thing to have happen. Something else about you that I'm curious, that I'm sure people are curious about. Are you still keeping a record of all your matches?
Yes, actually, right next to me. I had to double check what number this weekend would be, but I have like a yearly, like a big book, a yearly calendar, and I have just like the beginning of every month has like a normal calendar, and it has each date in it, and then and where that booking is and who my opponent was, and then when you get to like the notes section where it breaks down like each day, it has the same information, but then whether I won or lost and how, what the finish was.
What motivated you to come up with that? Because that's a wonderful concept. You can use that later on for things down the road.
Yeah, I growing up, I was so fortunate that anything wrestling related I wanted, my parents were able to buy me. So I had every single book and every single DVD and T-shirts, and I went to live events. And something that always stuck with me was actually in one of Chris Jericho's books, where he had met a wrestler growing up that I don't remember who it was, but he had asked them about a particular match, and that wrestler had no idea what he was talking about. He completely blew him off, and like that was a really big moment for Chris. So Chris kept a journal of every single match that he had, whether he won or lost, what the finish was, where it was, how much money he made, up until he actually was in the I Quit match in 2005 against John Cena, when Cena debuted on Raw. So that was kind of my inspiration for this, because I never want to not know the answer to someone's question. I don't want to make them feel like a pivotal moment in their life meant nothing to me.
I thought I remember Chris Jericho talking about that. I knew I had listened to some wrestling legend who said that they did that, so now I know.
And Chris Jericho, I hope he hears this podcast, has to get you on, since you mentioned them in the story like that. Jericho, get her on. That's one of my messages. Something else that I know that that's already out there all over the internet. You've made history in 2016. You've managed to work for all the big three promotions within one calendar year. With respect to privacy, what was it like going in between the different locker rooms?
I think really every locker room in wrestling is very similar. You have the people that have wanted to do this their whole life, and you have the people that are just learning, and the people the backstage people, and the people you don't see on screen. So each locker room is the same in that aspect, but it's been really great to meet the different personalities and really get to know the people you see on TV, who they are in real life. And I get asked a lot, like, which is my favorite locker room? And I don't have a favorite, because I just love wrestling. I'm just still a fan of wrestling. And to be able to make history and work all three in not only a calendar year, but within a month apart, it's something that I never thought I would be able to do. And I'm really happy to be in the position that I am.
Well, you probably already know my next question. You right now, as BQ mentioned earlier, the hottest female free agent, probably one of the hottest free agents, period, out here. How likely is it that one of the big three will have your services this year?
Well, they've all already had my services.
I'm in a contract permanent where we can see you.
What they're trying to say is, Deonna, if you're available, they want you to be a permanent female on the podcast to take my spot as like a little guest host, is what they're saying. So they don't want you to sign with anyone else but them.
Thanks, Bobby. That's exactly what
I could never take his spot. Never. No, it's in all seriousness, I don't know what the possibility of that is. Everything that I do is just like a one-time thing. It's not contracted. It's just, I'm going to be there that day and I'm going to go home the next. So as far as long-term being with any one of the three, I have no idea. I'm in the same boat as you guys are asking those questions.
There's a lot of internet experts out there that already know where you're going. So it's interesting to hear your answer. I mean, I would imagine you enjoy the flexibility of working for whatever promotion, and or big or small. And I mean, I was telling someone the other day, I saw that Cody Rhodes had a match with Mike Bennett, and I was like, gosh, independent circuits, you can really build dream matches right now between guys from Ring of Honor, TNA, the NDC, and the UK. And it's kind of nice to have that flexibility. I would imagine to wrestle almost anyone that you would like to, or at least for the potential to be there.
Yeah, it's fun in that aspect, because I get to do it all. And when you're just contracted for NXT and WWE are the only places you can work. So you get to work the same people. And, I mean, if that's your goal, then that's great. But my goal right now is to be able to do everything possible. I want to be able to go to Japan, and I want to wrestle in Puerto Rico, and maybe go to Mexico. And I just want to be the best wrestler that I can be. And I don't necessarily think at this point in time, like, one place can offer me that. So I love the flexibility. I love being the only person to ever be able to do it all.
And we love that too as fans. I want to ask one more thing, and then we're going to move into a final segment here with you. But I opened up Twitter to some questions earlier, and then typically on Twitter we get some really, really generic questions. But someone asked something here that I really wanted to ask. At Paradox Kid on Twitter, he asked, "What's an element of the business that drew you in at a young age that you would like to see more of today?"
Oh, wow.
Do you think like something's missing that you may have that you would like to see more of, that struck you when you became a fan?
The moment I became a fan was actually Stone Cold hitting someone with a chair. So I don't want to see that anymore. But
was it a headshot?
It was, I believe, yeah. But I think as a women's wrestler and growing up loving women's wrestling, Trish Stratus is my idol. She's the person that made me know that I could do this. So I think for women's wrestling, what I'd like to see more is character development and storylines, and giving fans a reason to invest in the women. That makes all the difference. And that's why people love and hate John Cena, because he is who he is, and they've given time to express that. And people get to form an opinion when they know someone. So I think it's really important right now for women to be able to express themselves and be given the time to do so. So that's something that I would really love to see more of in wrestling.
We've got one more segment here before we wrap up with you that it's something new we're doing. It's kind of a 5-question, how well do you know Robbie E? How well do you know Robbie E type of thing. So we know that you're fluent in Purrazzo, but are you fluent in Per Rob Bro?
Ooh.
Oh, that's good.
You get 5 questions, ABC. See how well you know the Rob man himself.
It's multiple choice.
Hey, don't mess this up.
Yeah.
Don't mess
Okay.
this up, Donna.
Okay.
So for the first question, when it comes to his merchandise, Robbie E is a full-blown hustler. Which of the following items has Robbie not sold on his eBay page? A,
Okay.
a personalized Robbie E 8x10. B, a selfie stick. Or C, his undergarments.
His undergarments.
That is correct.
All right, one.
I hope.
I would have got that one wrong. I swore I sold my underwear to somebody.
I think it was me too.
No. That's Jesse that sells his underwear.
Okay, so for the second question, what is Robbie E's current finishing move? A, the phenomenal fist bump. B, the boom drop. Or C, the Texas bro relief.
C, the Texas bro relief.
That's incorrect. We tricked you at the beginning of the show and we talked about it. It is B, the boom drop.
Well, that was a trick question.
Yeah, we tricked you. We set you up.
I don't even know you anymore, Donna. I don't even know you.
He debuted the Bro Relief at an indie event. That's what we were talking about.
Oh,
Just
okay.
ask the next question.
Okay, next question. What is Robbie E's pet dog's name? A, Boom Boom the Wonder Dog. B, Bro Kin Matt Hardy. Or C, Prancer Pants.
C, Prancer Pants.
That is correct.
And I've almost kidnapped the dog a million times, so.
Yeah,
Pretty famous dog. I think everybody knows the answer to that question. Everyone knows it. You got a pretty famous dog, Robbie.
Thank you.
For the next question.
I'll have her on next week.
We'll get Prancer Pants on the show. You know, Prancer Pants eats better than me. I see him eating steak all the time. He eats better than me. For the next question, what reality show did Robbie E have a multiple appearances on? A, Big Brother After Dark. B, The Amazing Race. Or C, Real New Jersey Housewives.
B, The Amazing Race.
That is correct.
That was
I was
actually
cheering.
pretty funny.
I was cheering for you on that one.
I
thought it
remember
was
the
Housewives.
first episode, I was at the gym on the treadmill, and I was like, that's my friend! Like, screaming.
So for the final question, for the one worth everything. Well, you don't win anything. There's no prize. But what?
A wet tortilla.
Yeah, for the fifth final question. What is the one thing Robbie hates more than anything in the world? A, feet. B, Nicolas Cage. Or C, leg day.
Ooh. I'm gonna go with
That's
A,
tough.
feet.
That is correct.
You know Robbie very well.
Hell yeah.
Your website, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
Oh, you can follow me on Twitter at Deonna Purrazzo, Facebook at Deonna Purrazzo, and Instagram at Deonna Purrazzo.
All right, we're gonna give you a perfect score on this question. So we're gonna.
Yeah, I just get the extra credit because it made no sense.
See, just like Robbie said at the beginning of the show, we just do everything wrong and mess up, you know, the team you want to root for. And that's just the truth of it.
Makes it a little more entertaining on the air instead of just being cookie cutter. Thank you very much, Deonna
Thank you,
Purrazzo,
guys.
for coming by and talking to us.
Thanks for having me.